who fail the exam still acting just because they're senior in positions as deputy PS and PS in some instances.
And what is so peculiar about it, and it works to the disadvantage of the organizational efficiency, is that most of these persons, they do not have the experience, and they are given responsibilities and authorities relying on their own individual knowledge that they would have acquired coming out of their own academic studies to guide them in taking decisions where public officers' general welfare and rights are concerned. And the PSA is very concerned about that. One of the things that I have observed, or that PSA has pointed out, and just recently, has to do with this permanent secretary that had to get an extension in
past his retirement
past
age.
His retirement age.
I think it was at the Ministry of Energy.
Yes.
Right. Now tell me, retirement don't drop out the sky and sneak up on people.
It takes 33 1/3 years of service.
In some instances more.
And you are saying that you want to give this permanent secretary an extension because there is nobody else to fill his shoes. Something is wrong with the manpower planning, the succession planning arrangements in the public service. And that harks back to bad management on the part of those who have that responsibility.
Not nice at all. Not nice at all. That is the state that we have reached to in the public. So,
you know, there are some PSs who you do not mind, and you're happy to know that they are being considered to be retained in the public service. But that particular PS, I am not sure that he had the support of his staff in the Ministry of Energy. He's notorious for ill-treating the staff, the technical staff at the ministry, and there is not a very good relationship between himself and those very important persons in the ministry to be able to fulfill the mandate of the ministry. And that is of concern, because actually the PS is he's the administrator, he's the head, he actually makes the thing go. Accounting officer. But at the end of the day, it is your staff that makes these things, makes your planning and the execution of your plans bring the kind of fruit that is expected. But when you have poor relationships existing in between the heads and the staff themselves, that is not good.
But you're speaking of a plan, comrade. You're speaking of poor planning, but is there a plan? Is there a plan?
Well, clearly, by the mere fact that they had to ask to give this particular permanent secretary another extension is an indication that there was no succession planning. And that is a failure. That is a serious failure. But it all points to this idea that the public service cannot run as effectively as it should, and that they need to retain these persons.
That falls directly and squarely on the shoulders of whom? Who is responsible for the strategic direction of the public service? Who is responsible for the strategic planning, if there's a strategic plan?
Well, clearly it is the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary is supposed to outline the direction of the organization based on the policy that is set by the government, and to ensure that it is flexible enough to meet the direction or the the organizational plan that this policy makers have set. But you need to get your deputy PSs in on the game well in advance to ensure that when your time reach to the MIT office, there is a smooth transition. And that has not happened.
It has not.
They are keeping themselves in office because it is either they are afraid to go home or they genuinely believe that they are indispensable.
Apart from these PSs setting the tone from the get-go for these ministries, focusing the energy, focusing the priorities, the resources, and to be in line with whatever government's vision is, I am concerned, comrade, that the constant splitting of these ministries, we're talking about strategic plan, the constant splitting, every time there's a change in governance, there's a splitting, there's an amalgamation, there's a contraction, there's an expansion. And what is happening to the public officers' pension and leave records? What is happening to their positions? Look at Ministry of Agriculture, for instance. They split into land and division 1 minute, then they're back to Ministry of Fisheries. The forest rangers have bounced around so many times from ministry to ministry. I don't know what their position is going to be come time for retirement for those officers. Because again, the strategic plan, what is the strategic plan?
Yes, exactly.
What are we doing for these forest rangers? What are we doing for the persons who have been a political football?
But I don't think these things are taken into account at all whenever these policy decisions are taken, and it is the responsibility of the permanent secretary to make sure that that kind of stability exists, whether it be that you have to have a HR department that ensures that wherever the organization has to change in whatever direction, that issues affecting the staff, that remains constant as the organization fragments to suit the change in policy direction. The fact of the matter is these PSs need to get their act together. These HR departments needs to be properly monitored, because since they have created the HR stream, the public service appeared to have started going downhill after that, because there seemed to be a disregard for the procedures, the regulations, the laws, the acts that guide the bureaucracy of the public service.
You're speaking about, in that particular instance, you're speaking about the devolved functions, those powers that the Service Commission had that they
had delegated
to some of these permanent secretaries. But while a delegated power is just that, a delegated power, it doesn't shirk the responsibility
of the Service
Commission to make sure that the powers they delegate to these persons are
properly executed.
That's right,
yes,
in the correct manner.
I agree with you. However, one has to accept that the Service Commission, remember some time ago there was that decision for the establishment of these monitoring units that was aimed essentially to ensure that once the functions were devolved, that it would have been carried out in accordance with acceptable standards existing in the public service.
Hence the reason why we have so much grievances now, because permanent secretaries, they interpreting the Public Service Commission regulations as they well feel. And some of them, that is.
And there is poor accountability. If at all at the level of the HR departments, there is poor accountability. Everybody seems to want to take a hands-off approach. We'll leave the HR officers to handle human resource issues, and I will look at at whatever the other areas of responsibility that the organization or the division has responsibility for. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the PS.
And the big question is then, who appraises the PS?
Indeed, big question. And that's why we must have some kind of awareness and resistance to all of this. We have to put it in context, because at the end of the day, all of these deficiencies that we are seeing and inefficiencies affecting service delivery have affected public officers in some way. We are opening up the lines. If you have been affected as a public officer in some way, you can call the numbers. The numbers are?
Yes, folks, the numbers are 622-9154. We have 622-3303. And in Tobago, we have 639-0791.
You can call in and let us hear your view. If it is constructive, we are going to accommodate you. If it is in our view contrary to the general direction of our program, you may lose contact. Comrades, we really do need to accept that in order to change this situation that is facing the public service today, we have to expose it. And public officers need to be aware that it is not unique to their own situation, such as in agriculture. But it also, it runs across the board in many, many ways. We have a caller on the line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning. A very good program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at least I must commend you all. But why it is you all waited until this last moment? This program should be on the air since in 2011, 2012. Because a lot of people who were in good position and know what they were doing were removed out of office, and a square peg was placed in their position. From that stage or that year, the civil servants, the different departments have been declining throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
I hear you, yes.
And that is what is affecting Trinidad up to today. Because inefficient people is the head of the fountain, and that shouldn't be. You all allow me to get off your hand, and now it's too late to be recalling the horse back in the stable. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. We accept your point of view. The fact of the matter is, we have brought the matter to your attention. It is never too late. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Jofield and panel. I am a public servant, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What I want to know, why it is these permanent secretaries are given so much power in terms of they are able to hire people on contract. I think it is overdoing it now. Every week you're seeing people, they don't know who they are, they don't know where they come from, they don't know what they're doing, they just get a big salary and they're on contract. I think they should put a stop to that. The permanent secretaries in these ministries have too much power. Let the post be advertised, let it have an interviewing panel, and let them set the salaries like that. These permanent secretaries have too much power. They have a lot of things going on that you all do not know.
Yes,
investigate these permanent secretaries. Thank you very much.
Roger on that. And we have to accept that there are so many vacancies on the establishment that remains empty.
You see,
thank you, sister.
I
Thank
personally
you.
believe it's a deliberate move, right? You see, a public officer cannot be instructed by a politician, right? And when you have contract officers, who pays the piper call the tune, you understand? And that is the problem there. They're trying to substitute civil service positions with these contract positions.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
But tell me this thing now. And these ministries still submit budgets for the established positions, and they still factor in those positions when they prepare their budget?
Established positions, indeed, yeah.
But apart from that, it goes back to the same thing we were talking about, the quality of permanent secretaries. Fast
disappearing
are the permanent secretaries who hold that line between the political directorate and the civil service, which is supposed to be an independent
long ago they used to say that a permanent secretary was one that had cojones. And it was required in order to cause that divide, that line to remain between the public officer and the policy makers. But today it appears that they cower in the face of their principles.
It's systematic, brother. Let me tell you what they did first. First, they delinked.
They delinked them.
The deputy PS and PS and put them under the SRC, right? Therefore, they interfere with the relativity of the public service.
They destroyed
They separate them so that they can move them and pay them what they're worth.
Yes.
I have no problem with permanent secretaries making the type of money that they're making now.
Mm-hmm.
But what it has done, it has left from range 68 to range 4, right? In the same position they were in.
Yes.
Before that separation.
Mm-hmm.
Before, there was a relativity between cleaner all the way to the permanent secretary.
Yes, a fixed relativity.
And because these people, some of them, and I had to say some of them because we really have some good PSs out there.
Indeed,
still,
yeah,
right?
we still do.
But they are dying breed.
Yes. And I have to hand it to some of them. They really hold the line, but they are a fast disappearing breed. The public service is dying because permanent secretaries lack the courage to keep that line between the policy makers and those who have to carry out the work of serving the citizenry of this country as public officers. And you see this contract work? Fill the vacancies. Get the service commission to do what they are supposed to do. Even they seem to be impotent.
11,000 vacancies.
They seem to be impotent because nobody is actually going out there and ensuring that the vacancies on the establishment is filled out, and that these public officers and these public office posts are all manned for the benefit of the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago.
The excuse is, comrade, that they can't attract people with the salaries that exist in the public service. But who is responsible for that?
Yeah, it is the CPO, because she's supposed, The CPO is supposed to keep under review the salaries, the classifications,
and
compensation structure in the public service so as to ensure that it keeps pace with the changes in the society. We have a call. Good morning. All right, we lost it. Sorry. But if these entities are performing their functions in the way they should, we will not be in this situation today where the public service appears to be disintegrating and public officers are losing morale. We have a caller. Caller, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Now, I really I joined the conversation late, but I wanted to know to what end is the conversation would be with respect to, you all talk about the permanent secretaries and health department.
Yes.
Now, I could recall, under, I think I want to be sure that there were lots of areas that people, kept, retreats and so on to more or less enhance your productivity level with public servants.
Yes.
And it's always a challenge.
Yes.
Now, you're critical of contract work. But if you go into the private sector, they're going in that particular direction to not so much motivate, but more to get more out of people productivity level. Because when you're permanent, it's a problem to me in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes,
you're permanent
comrade.
and you're getting your money at the month end. You see it reflective in productivity level in the police service and a lot of areas.
Yes.
And I want to be careful. I want you all to be careful with respect to the permanent sex. I tell you, when cabinet approve anything, the permanent secretaries and they have to carry it out.
Yes, and we are not saying no.
Because of them, we are able to uproot a lot of what I call inefficiencies from political figures, expose them totally.
Excellent.
I want to be mindful about the criticism, or give the plus and minuses about the PS, and I could learn something this morning.
I got you.
Program.
Yes,
very
thank you very much. And we take your concern, and what we will point out is that public officers have not been averse to increasing their public.
Hang up and try your call again.
Averse to increasing their productivity. That has never been an issue. The issue arose as time progressed. They have been demoralized by the way they've been treated in terms of their rights, and they are still expected to perform. There was that look where salaries are concerned, where promotion is concerned, where acting appointments is concerned, where transfers are concerned, and a number of these administrative issues.
But the vacancies, brother, as I would have pointed out on another program, you have, okay, let's take for instance licensing, right? There are positions for cashiers there, right? Now if you know the cashier stream, it's cashier 1 and then you're promoted to cashier 2. Because licensing is a division that brings in a lot of revenue.
Yes.
Right? Daily. The positions that cashiers there are cashier 2s. In other words, a senior cashier, someone who knows the business and you understand, and have a lot more responsibility. Well, let me tell you something today, folks, right? There are no cashiers at the licensing office. The persons that are there now performing cashier duties, right, are clerks, right? That they're supposed to be paying a cashier's allowance to carry out the duties, right? Now, why is there no senior cashiers in the licensing department? But then you hear about corruption and all kind of things. The service commissions again, and the persons who are supposed to be filling these positions.
They are impotent, comrades. They are sitting there. Move them out. Replace them. We have a call on the line. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to the panel.
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
I would just like to seek permission to highlight a situation in Tobago where contract workers and retirees are placed in supervisory positions over public servants.
Oh, my goodness.
And when it's time to sign their staff report, some of these supervisors don't want to sign the staff report.
Yes.
And that leaves you in a predicament because it is left hanging.
Of course.
And then years later, they are calling you to tell you that your staff report isn't signed, it is not completed, and you now have to take it and run around and see if you could find these same people who didn't want to sign it because their signature has to be there
on it.
Because nobody else in the office hierarchy doesn't want to sign it because they are claiming they were not in your supervisory position at the time. Now, this leaves a problem for when time for you to retire for your compilation of your gratuity or your pension or whatever.
Exactly.
So I am seeking for them to either give them the permission to sign it because they know that they place these retirees over public servants, or find some way of getting it sorted out.
Okay, thank you very much, sister from Tobago, and welcome. And good morning.
Okay, ma'am. Now, your staff report, Joe, right? That is your increments, your promotion, everything concerning you regarding the last resting place for your staff report is at the Service Commission Department, if you're a civil servant. The thing is, contract officers, right, according to the CPO, a circular that she would have, they would have issued.
The CPO brought out a circular.
No contract officer can sign a civil servant's appraisal.
No, it is supposed to be done
by the senior public officer, the senior civil servant.
The senior civil servant resident in the department. And the contract officer is present, but he cannot sign off on it. But there's mischief in all of that.
Yes, because if you can't sign off, well, then how could you supervise?
And to the caller and to those who would want to echo the same sentiments that it affects productivity in the public service, the fact of the matter is, if these issues are not addressed with the degree of alacrity needed, you are going to have demoralized public officers, and most of them would run afoul of the very regulations that says you must be, there is a regulation that says you must be courteous to your internal and external customers of the public service, and it is misconduct. But it's human beings. We have a call on the line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning to the panel.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Morning to Trinidad and Tobago and the world at large. I want to agree with you gentlemen this morning. You all are on par. And you speak the truth, because in the public service, they think that 3 or 4 men as skeleton staff could do the work for maybe about 25.
Precisely.
And this is wrong.
Yes.
This is wrong. This is something that have to correct, because there's a lot of people and young people in a place for employment in Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly.
And they wouldn't get, because of contractor system. But I feel the kickback that they feel they will get from the contractor, I hope they put it to use. Thank you for the edification, and you all have a nice day.
Yes, comrade. Thank you very much. The point out of all of this is contract work, when it was initially instituted in the public service, was to deal with a dearth of experience and skills that did not reside in the public service.
Yes, and persons who were leaving or retiring with that knowledge, we would bring them back for a year just to make sure and train.
Yes.
Right? Persons who would aspire to those positions.
The thing has been corrupted all the way down the line, all the way down the structure, whereby even drivers are brought in on contract.
And this constant dismantling of the public service, I mean, this irks me, bro. The public service has been getting a bashing.
A beating.
A bashing. And you know what? The government encouraging it, because apparently it's a great thing for government, right? To allow the public to have absolutely no confidence in the civil service, right? So that they could use that as an excuse, right, to continue to pay public officers poorly.
We have a caller on the line. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I listen and watching the thing in the whole
discourse.
The whole package.
Yes.
is like it's something like integrity. You know, we could put trust
Yes.
in certain people who hold certain positions of high office.
Yes.
And the other thing I was thinking about is the policies that were handed down from the colonial times, which should have a kind of slave impact built in inside it right there. Because I hear all you now talking about the amount of people that they want to do certain tasks. You know, it come like when Pharaoh wanted to put pressure on the slaves. He gave them less material to work with.
Yes.
Yes, a good analogy.
You following me?
Yes, I'm following you clearly.
Very good. So, you know, I say in these times, we need to start as a people, it includes everybody. I'm talking about the big, the small, the educated, the uneducated. We need as a people to bond together and start changing up some of these policies to suit our needs. You know, it's like how do they call it? Customizing it then.
Well said.
To suit our needs. We can't be living in some other people's times and have our people suffering in these times, you know. And I don't want to talk too much because I might talk whole day.
Yes.
You know.
Thank you very much.
I think these are some of the issues we need to address as a people.
Thank you very much, comrade.
Yeah,
and
you're welcome.
It's a well placed opinion, and part of that has to do with the plurality of this society of ours that called Trinidad and Tobago. But yet we need to place Trinidad and Tobago first. We need to place Trinidad and Tobago first. And we will get our systems, and I'm talking about the policymakers here. Let us avoid or let us reduce the amount of sectorial interest and place the interest of the whole, the greater good.
You're speaking patriotism.
That's the word. It's the P word. And some of us, it will add potency to the thing.
And all these issues of corruption that flying around Trinidad and Tobago, I think the key to fixing that is to make sure that you have an independent, strong civil service, right?
Yeah,
one
but of course,
that you can see the clear separation of powers between politics and the actual running of
the state, indeed.
And you know, comrade, the state is the largest employer. Everyone agrees the state is the largest employer of the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
But I think that it goes deeper than that. Apart from the actual workforce, we in Trinidad and Tobago, if we ourselves another public officer, we know someone who is. It's our families, it's our neighbors, it's our friends.
Indeed.
And we need the support of Trinidad and Tobago to fix this broken system that we have here.
Yes.
It affects all of us. It touches us all in some way. Not just when it's time to vote.
Yes.
Not just when it's time for elections and so on. Must the politicians come down to our level and say, we have seen your issues. It's deeper than that.
But sister, I dare to add that as the largest employer, there was a time when as the largest employer, the state used to be the standard setter for salaries and conditions of service in the country.
It was a position of dignity.
You know, the thing has flipped.
You're ashamed to...
The thing has flipped.
You're ashamed to tell persons that you're employed in the state and you can't go for a mortgage to buy a home.
When you go to these institutions, they say, what, you working in public service and that is your pay?
You know?
You working in public service and those are the that is the arrangement of employment that you are working under?
You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're dressing nice to go to work. You know, public servants, they dress, they put on a brave face.
Because they are proud of their jobs. And that is an indication. That is why I say we have to stop blaming the ordinary public servant for productivity issues. It is the leaders and the managers.
You see, one of the issues by law, right, a public servant can't speak out. And this is why we here. And
that's why the PSA.
Yes,
well
we
said.
have to do what we're doing now. They can't go to the media. They can't come out and speak out in public because they will lose their jobs.
Yeah, the way the regulations are constructed, public officers
have to suffer in silence.
In silence. And it is the responsibility of the association to have discussions with the functionaries with a view to addressing those concerns that will, once addressed, will ensure that productivity continues.
But we can't always come to the radio stations and TV stations because it's pretty expensive to do so. PSA is a non-profit organization. We survive only off the dues of the members. So we have to time these types of conversations.
Indeed.
And we need the support of the public. Like I said, this touches everyone in some way. Businessmen out there, this affects you. When a public servant can't afford their groceries, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
It comes back to you. You know how much empty bellies we had on the promenade yesterday? Persons who did not receive a salary.
Yes.
That you already worked for it, comrade, and you can't get it. They're telling you hold out. Who's going to absorb the cost of the interest on those persons' loans and so on? Who's going to tell their children, don't feel hungry today? Delay your hunger. Feel hungry in 2 weeks' time.
You know, it worries me whether or not our employer recognizes the emotional aspect of all of this, you know. Because it is not robots, it's not computers you're working with, but it's people. And people who have families and families that continue to turn the thing around that keeps Trinidad and Tobago going.
Nobody, public officer mustn't dare to dream. Don't have aspirations. Don't let your children dare to want to study abroad and so on. You cut your belly and stay quiet.
When did this country reach like that, boy?
It's a shame.
When?
It's a shame.
We have to get it right. And we are saying that in the organization called the public service, at the head of divisions and ministries and departments, whether it be in BRR where the chairman is responsible for all the affairs of the affairs of the Board of Inland Revenue, in the ministries where the PSs are the heads, where the Service Commission, where the DPA is, and the CPO and these heads of commissions are concerned, try and place Trinidad first. Get the systems. Let's review the systems that was placed there to run this country smoothly in the interest of all, so that the quality of life and the standard of living of every citizen would be one that we could be proud of to say, I am a Trinbagonian.
I agree with you, comrade. I agree with you 100%. And just to touch on one particular issue, you recall the Immigration Division when they stood up for themselves to have a safe working environment. What happened?
That was when the Minister of Labor would have taken out an injunction against those officers to force them to work contrary to the OSH Act, just to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago citizens continue to get the service at the risk of their own safety and health. They went and they took out an injunction.
You tell me if that is a compassionate employer. If that employer cares about the workers that have to work in these conditions.
But you see,
really,
Trinidad and Tobago don't know that, you know.
Don't know.
You look at first world countries and tell me if that is the way any first world country or any country aspiring to first world nation would treat their immigration officers.
National security.
Yes.
National security. People don't make skyline. When you leave here and you go to America, when you see an immigration officer, you're straight like a pin.
Use England as a standard as well, eh?
But
Use
look,
England. We are part of a Commonwealth. I believe we're still there.
We're almost out of time.
We have
plenty to talk about.
Yes. But we'll be back tomorrow. The discourse continues. Let us try to halt, slow down, or reverse the dismantling of the public service. The PSA requires your support. And we will continue to put up a resistance.